Okay, great. Let's shoot off. I can see there's quite a few new names in the room. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be looking at the market, the analysis of the market, and then I'll address any questions that come through. I just need some confirmation that anybody can hear me. Anybody? Okay, I was a bit worried there at some stage. All right, so let's start the day. I've actually had a look at the charts a little bit before the time, and it's quite interesting that the market seems to be coming back to normality. The excessive volatility that we've had in the past has quietened down a little bit, and there's a lot more interesting trading opportunities that are presenting themselves. So let's have a quick look. And I'm going to start the wrong way around. Normally I start at the daily charts, which is on your screen at the moment. I'm going to actually start at the hourly charts because there's been some quite nice volatility deals that have presented themselves on the hourly charts. And I'm going to open them a little bit so you can see a little bit more clearly. Let's get that going. Okay, so essentially I haven't been talking about channel trading for quite a while, and here's a nice potential channel trade that's setting up here. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 bounce. The 4 bounce is supported by a support and resistance area. So we've got a sort of confirmation. It's trying to break out, push back, it's trying to break out, push back. It's trying at the moment to again push back. But if it doesn't succeed on that pushback, I think we've got quite a nice trade. Now, although this is the hourly chart, this channel is 138 pips wide. So this particular trade, if you take it up there, has the potential of over 100 pips. And bearing in mind, this is the hourly chart. So these are the kind of opportunities that are now starting to present themselves on hourly based charts. So this is one that I would seriously consider. I'd wait a little bit. I must probably go down to the 15-minute and just have a look, because there, as you can see, there's a bit of bull activity going on there. I just need to see how serious it is. No, it's not that serious. It's going to start bending back any moment, I think. Looks pretty. Doesn't look that strong. So let's have a look at some other trades. So a few too many things on the chart here. Okay, and then there's a similar one, which is actually most probably a stronger one, because this is with a trend a trade. So you've got 1 bounce, 2 bounce, 3 bounce, 4 bounce. And again, you've got a support and resistance level there. It's bounced on there. It's already bounced a few times. It's not going very enthusiastically at the moment, but again, a good setup to be watched. And again, this looks very small. It's the daily, it's the hourly chart, but let's have a look at what there is. And there's 120 pip potential target right there. So the channel trading is starting to come back into play, which it hasn't for quite a long time. And here's another one I just noticed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that's a buy signals presenting itself. In fact, the RSI is confirming that buy signal, and there's a potential buy signal there. So interesting that we've found quite a few trades on the hourly time frame, and we're starting to see more conventional price action happening. Just want to have a quick look if there's anything else here. I don't think that's that good. I think those three are the most interesting that I can see. Through the years, I've had a bit of a trading problem where I can only see sell trades, and this is in fact a buy trade. And the problem got so bad that I had to put a mirror on my desk and then look at the charts in the mirror so that I could see buy trades too. But thank goodness those days are over now, and my problem has been resolved. Boom. Okay, so those are the hourly charts, and let's go and have a look at the 4 hours. All right. Anything that anybody can see, just shout out. I'm just looking over here. One of the best setups that I've seen again is the Aussie. Again, I'm seeing sell trades the whole time. Here's a support and resistance level. It's bounced on it. There's also a non-horizontal support resistance level that is going to looks like it wants to fall over. You can see there's a divergence here on the RSI. And there is a potential trade. At the moment, it hasn't broken through properly, so we'll have to wait for this one. But there's a pretty good setup for a sell again. And what's nice about what I've seen so far is that many of those crosses that we're looking at are all different. They're completely different. So let's have a look if there's anything else. Now the franc is breaking down quite a lot, and the pound, the euro is also trying to go up. No major no entry levels there. You know, when it's trending down like that, you have to enter on a new low, which is almost making right now. But the potential for this particular one is not that great. It's only about 60 pips, so I'm not going to look at that any further. All right, so let's have a look at the other 4-hour charts. Again, we've got the squeeze here on the pound yen between support and resistance. Not a great support and resistance line, that area. You can see it's very messy in the past. But that looks like it's squeezing itself into a little corner there. Needs to break out of there. The RSI, it says it's going south. It has crossed the 50 line. Sorry about that. Let's just see what's going on. Yeah, okay. And it's crossing the 50 line there. So again, a potential setup. So what I'm really showing you are setups that I've seen. Here's a buy setup, but because the RSI hasn't gone overbought and oversold, it stayed on more in the oversold area, I wouldn't take that type of buy too seriously. And and here's Aussie yen, really good one. Here's a strong divergence there. 50 line crossover. We can't draw a proper line, so when you can't draw a proper line, you take the 50 line crossover. And we have a non-horizontal support resistance breakthrough. So again, there's quite a few setups very similar to that presenting themselves like there's quite a few, and they not that convincing yet, so you need to just watch them a little bit. But again, I think there's quite a bit of, there's 250. That's a 250 pip potential that we're looking at over there. So that's well worth looking at. There's a strong divergence, very, very strong divergence there. That one we would have to look at. So if you want to sell the pound yen, you have to just have a quick look at what the pound is doing itself. So, and I think the pound's going up at the moment. Let's have a look. Where's the pound? No, the pound's not racing up, but it's pretty close to going up. And the yen is going down. So the yen is playing the game, but in terms of the sell, what do we want to do? Yes, we're going to sell. So it just depends on what the pound is doing. Right. So let's have a look at the daily charts. So as I say, I'm doing this in a bit in reverse. Nothing much here except the franc again is presenting quite a nice trend line violation and RSI trade there. trend line violation on the RSI. No divergence, but still that's a good signal. That's a good signal. So there is a few confirmations on the franc. I don't like trading with franc much, but certainly there is quite a few sell signals that have come through on the franc over there. Two nice mounds. Trend line violation. It's a good setup without the RSI. Unfortunately, there's no divergence, but that's good enough for now. Very similar. Look at those formations. Very similar on the yen. Incredibly similar. If you look at the last while, very similar setup. Also breaking through there. So there's another potential setup there. Let me mark that. And let's have a look. Anything else presenting itself? No, nothing else. The pound, the euro is not as enthusiastic as the franc is. The franc's already making new lows. The euro's not making new highs. So it hasn't broken out of its triangle or a trend line there, whereas the franc has. Okay, let's have a look. Any comments, questions, remarks? Otherwise, we're going to be ending the webinar right now. I think the most tradable trade. Let's just have a look if there's anything else here. This is an interesting trade. We had a look at it last week, and we said, okay, the Fibonacci guys would be very happy with this trade because there was the extension, there was the retracement. The retracement was bounced on the 61 and then went up, and then he said, all right, well, if you're a Fibonacci trader, that is the target, and just look at that. That's a pretty. It could get pretty close to the actual target that's happening. But again, there's a divergence here. There's a 50-line crossover. So traditionally, I would be trading a sell. Yeah, that's pretty much a sell. But we've seen there's a few Fibonacci. I don't know if Fibonacci is still on here. I'll just see. No, it's the coloring is all wrong, so I'll have to just sort it out. See if I can change. Oh, I've changed this Fibonacci for that indicator that I spoke about, so we won't use that one. Delete. All right, so let's have a look. I do have a question about trailing stops that would like to email for the Make Money. Okay, just a general observation about trailing stops, break-even stops, all those kind of things is that when we do, now we do a lot of optimization on EAs and that type of thing. And when we do testing of the value added, so in other words, you do an optimization without using a trailing stop, and then you do an optimization using the trailing stop, the break-even stop, the dynamic target, the dynamic stops, all those kind of things. The contribution that they make is absolutely marginal, and sometimes nothing. In other words, they don't improve profitability at all. So overall, and this is again a very general thing that I've found, is that it is better to let the deal run. So if you're trading manually, if you spotted an entry and you spotted a target and you spotted a stop area, you can put that on and just leave it. The more you interfere with deals, the worse your overall results get. If you interfere if you start using trailing stops a lot, what that does, it breaks your risk return ratio down quite a lot. So you end up cashing in too soon, cashing in too soon, cashing in too soon, too much, and your risk return ratio becomes very weak. On the other hand, you don't ever want to have a deal that's gone 80 pips positive and then hit your 100 pip stop type of thing. You never want that. So there is a role for a trailing stop, but don't fall in love with them too much. Don't think that they are the be all and end all. You have to use them selectively, and I don't know if that's the kind of question you want to ask about trailing stops, but certainly beware of them. They can water down your profitability tremendously if you're not careful. In other words, there's a saying, it says cash in your losers quickly and let your profitable trades run. Now, trailing stop does exactly the opposite. It tends to cash in your winners too quickly, because it's a natural thing. In any trend, there's a pullback period. There's the trend. It's a pullback. There's the trend again. There's the pullback. So pullbacks are natural, and unfortunately, the trailing stops seem to grab them, and then you miss the rest of the trend. Yes, as I've mentioned in that example, the one thing you must avoid is that if you are substantially up, you don't want to run a negative. So if you are using trailing stops, use big ones. And only activate them when the transaction is quite far along. Don't start them too soon, and don't trail too closely. That's my advice. So if you're going for 100 pip trade, start them at plus 60 and trail by 50 or 40. Have big trailing gaps and start them later. That's the best advice I can give you. As I say, our experience from thousands of optimizations is that trailing stops do not add value. In fact, they decrease profitability. Okay, thanks for that question. It's a case of looking at thousands of transactions and saying, does it, so you will find individual ones that where it makes sense that a trailing stop would have helped you. But if you look at it over a huge amount of transactions, then you've got to take that into account. All right, let's have a look. Are there any other questions, comments, remarks? I don't think I've spotted anything unusual today, except that channel trading is coming back in, so that's pretty good, as we've seen on the 1 hour. And although it's on the 1 hour, the targets and stops are pretty big there. I think that pound New Zealand one is possibly one I'll trade live there. The Euro Oz, I just love selling this one. It just has such fantastic runs on the. You see, it does nothing when it's on the buy sort of leg, but it does a lot on the sell legs. Now it's building up for a sell leg, yeah. And I'm going to definitely look at this one to just trade it to the previous low. This looks like a good sell. So I would say if I had to trade tonight, I would actually trade the pound New Zealand, the Euro Oz. You see, they're different currencies, so you're trading unique currencies. And if you even look at the AUD yen, so you've got 6 different currencies that you're trading in 3 of these trades. That is a buy, and those are the 2 sells. Those are the ones that stand out today. I just want to remind myself if there's anything else The franc is starting a run, but I don't know. Nothing else. Oh yeah, then these where they squeeze into a little tight corner. There are quite a few of them. Just watch those ones. Okay, let's have a look. Do you ever, is this the best time to trade the Aussie yen? Do you ever suggest the best time to trade the Aussie yen? All right, so very good question. And one of the things that I do look at is Mataf. So let's go and have a, let's find Mataf if we can find him. Let's type that in. Mataf.net, volatility. All right. Oh, there. I've got a few videos on the Mataf. If you search on, I don't know why it didn't just take me straight there. Okay. So let's have a look. You asked about the Aussie yen. Aussie yen. So we click on Aussie yen. Aussie yen's got good volatility. The Mataf site's a bit slow. Okay. Now, do you ever suggest the best time to trade the Aussie? So if you're trading breakouts, in other words, volatility trades for the Aussie yen, it's pretty clear that the this in fact is the open of the US market. 14 I just know 14 G, I think this is GMT, is the open of the US market. So the statistics are telling you if you want to go for really good volatile breakouts, then this is the where you should be trading the Aussie yen. Does that make sense? So come to Mataf, come to these volatility charts, and it will also tell you that Thursdays are the best days to trade it because that's the most volatile. Those are the most volatile. And look how beautifully the Aussie yen's volatility has gone up after crashing down over the last 5 years, really crashing down. It is now returning. And if we look at most of the currencies, that's what will happen. You'll see increased volatility. So what other currency? Let's look at the pound yen. You might see a different profile for the pound yen. The pound yen. Oh, same. Okay, same profile. This is a little bit later. No, this is the same. Okay, so the open of the US market these days is obviously the time to trade volatility break. And in fact, you know, I'm preparing for this $1 million trading thing, and that's exactly what we found is that these are the hours. These are the hours to trade. Those hours. So you set your EAs up to trade those. If you're trading 1 minute and 5 minutes, we found that. I just want to see if there's any other. Let's have a look at the pound, pound New Zealand, or even the pound Oz. But the pound New Zealand must be the better one to go for. Now look at the volatility, how all of them are shooting up. So the market's not normalized yet. Okay, so now all of a sudden you've got two legs. You've got the US market open, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, doesn't look, I think the Oz, let's just work backwards. That's the UK. this, in fact, I think is the close of the US market. One, two, three, four, five. No, this is the close of the US market. Now that's very strange. It's it's always interesting to look at these things. So the close of the US market is generating a lot of volatility for this particular currency, and I'm not quite sure because there's then a bit of a quiet period. And only here somewhere does the Asian market open, which is obviously New Zealand. So I'm not sure why that second leg is there. And then obviously the UK market or the European market, when it opens, it always has a little bit of a volume increase. But please come to these charts. They're pretty useful. And I've used them for years and years and years. That's why I've made those videos just praising this particular website, because this basic information is actually quite useful. All right, and we have a look if there's anything else. Okay. All right. No, there's as far as I can tell, there's no further questions. So seeing that there's no further questions, thank you very much for attendance. I must say there's been quite a lot of people attending. This appears to be a very popular time. It's after the European market. It's just before the US market. And in fact, what this facility does, it says you are now here. This is where we are. The US market should open in an hour or two or hour and a half. So these charts are pretty live. Again, it's highlighted Tuesday. It says this is where you look at where we are now, and this is where we are now. So they're pretty good, these charts. And did I miss any trade setups? Yes, you must probably missed a whole lot. I basically focused on trade setups early on in the webinar. Sorry about that. Yes, yeah. Keep that MATF link. It is really very valuable. And one of the things I also like doing is I like sorting the currencies into high volatility and low volatility currencies. You just click on the pips, and it will immediately sort the currencies into. But the problem is you don't find normal currencies until. And you can actually change the list here. You can delete currencies and all kinds of things. Let's have a look. Where's the first normal currency that we come to? Is the Euro Oz, 300 pips. Now that's just phenomenal. This is if 3 months ago that would have been 180. So the currency volatilities have gone up tremendously. And yes, and if you want to see if the market's normalizing, come and look at these volatility graphs, and you can see that a lot of the currencies just are more than twice their normal volatility. Okay, so again, thank you very much for your attendance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create more webinars around this time, because certainly the attendance is most probably double what it is around the other time. So that's given me good guidance. Okay, again from me, Alex Boy, cheerio. Bye.